Bonjour, welcome to Called and Caffeinated. Thank you so much for joining me, and I want to take a quick minute to invite you on pilgrimage with me to the Holy Land. January 17th through the 25th, 2022. This is the birthplace of our faith. I am so excited to have a cocktail and some coffee and some incredible food with you in the places where Christ himself walked. Taking a pilgrimage is a time-honored tradition, and if you've never been on one before, it's time, my friends. Israel is open again. We're going. StaceySummerow.com/pilgrimage. Cheers. Today I'm going to be doing something unusual. I'm going to do a Q&A from one of my listeners named Catherine, who writes, "Hey Stacey, I'm listening to your podcast, episode 57, and you mentioned how you found freedom in not just telling the Lord what you want, but in surrendering to what He wants. I'm currently struggling through that in a couple areas in my life, including my desires for my vocation, feeling lost in my current career path, and figuring out my next living situation. I've recognized that I have a deep heartache to be loved particularly, individually, intentionally, and for someone to really care about what I want and what I like. I'm currently asking God about this ache, and to heal my heart from the conviction that He doesn't care about what I want. Every time I surrender my desires to God, I just get sad, like I'm giving up. How can I surrender what I want to the Lord if I don't even think He cares, if I don't think He wants to give me what I want? I figured I would try asking you and see what you thought." Catherine, I am so excited for you that you are at this point in your spiritual journey, where you are on the precipice of entering into an entirely new way of living and an entirely new outlook. Now, I hear a lot of heartache in there as well. I hear a lot of wondering and confusion, and I totally understand that this is uncomfortable and it's a difficult place to be, but it is very, very exciting because the Lord can do amazing things with your hungry, your willing heart. I want to share a quote with you from St. Teresa of Avila. "Whoever makes a habit of prayer should think only of doing everything to conform his will to God's. Be assured that in this conformity consists the highest perfection we can attain, and that those who practice it with the greatest care will be favored by God's greatest gift and will make the quickest progress in the interior life. Do not imagine that there are other secrets. All our good consists in this." Equal parts terrifying and true. That is the big kahuna of the spiritual life, this struggle to give our will over to God's. So I totally relate to this. This is the exact struggle that I went through when I was discerning religious life. There was a friend of mine who was on my podcast a bunch of episodes back. His name's Mike Creevy, and he said at some point you have to stop renting your parents' faith and you have to purchase your own, and it's going to cost you something. Not only that, but it's going to cost you not less than everything. This is, again, really terrifying because when I was discerning religious life, I realized that I had to purchase my own faith, that I had to give God my down payment of trust. And honestly, that sticker shock of how much that was going to cost me lasted for weeks, if not even months, really. So just know that you can give yourself time. This is a huge question. It's so great that you're grappling with it. I'm so excited for you, but also give yourself a lot of permission and a lot of space to struggle for a while and to not expect this question to be perfectly answered right off the bat. Catherine, I don't know if you are praying the prayer of surrender that I give away on my website for free, but if you're not, I really encourage you to go ahead and download that prayer. Anyone can get it for free. It changed my life, and I firmly believe in its ability to change the lives of anyone who prays it. So you can just go to StaceySummerow.com. I will link to that, and just go ahead and click the green subscribe button. Put in your email, and instantly you'll get in your email inbox a packet called How to Make the Right Choice. And on page, I believe 2 or 3 of that packet is the prayer of surrender. So the way that I was told to pray it by the priest who gave it to me was to pray it slowly, hand each thing individually and separately to God. And the things that you particularly are holding on to on any given day are exactly the things that you need most to surrender to God. So it's really good at helping you identify areas where you might be holding back and to really begin to increase that trust in the Lord. Besides praying that prayer of surrender, I'm really looking forward to offering some thoughts that I think might be helpful for you in moving forward in your journey with the Lord. This is a highly personal journey. God speaks to me one way, He's going to speak to you a different way. So I can't tell you how it's going to go, but I can help give you a few questions that I think are really going to help you be able to diagnose the problem. So I have 2 questions for you, and depending on what your answer to those questions are, I think I'll offer a couple of things that might help you move forward. So the first question is this: where have I seen God's provision for me in the past? Where have I seen God's provision in the past? Where have I seen Him working in my life? How has he provided for me? Sometimes I have, I think they call it on the Abiding Together podcast, spiritual amnesia, where it's like I just totally forget. It just goes out of my mind. All the things that God has done for me in the past, all the tough situations that he's already pulled me through. I've been keeping a prayer journal for years, so I can just look back, I can leaf back through that prayer journal, I can see all the ways in which God has provided for me through difficult situations. Maybe you have a prayer journal like that, and maybe what you need is to just remind yourself of where God is working. And sometimes that provision doesn't look the way that we think it's going to at the time. For example, when I was 18, I really wanted to go to NYU to study musical theater, and that was my number one school. I applied, I auditioned, I totally bombed the audition, and I didn't get in. And I look back now, and I'm so glad that I didn't go to NYU because I was not ready for it. I was very impressionable, I was very young, and I was not ready to enter into such a secular culture at that age. I did go and live in New York after I graduated college, and I look back now and I think, oh my gosh, I thought I knew what I was getting into, but I had no idea. Thank God that I didn't get into NYU. So sometimes God's provision can only be seen in hindsight, but reminding ourselves of where he's helped us in the past can really help us move forward and surrender our future to him so that we can just go ahead and move forward in trust and give him that down payment of trust, knowing that he's already pulled us through so much in the past. So maybe this exercise feels a little unfamiliar to you. Maybe you've never thought about looking back to find God's provision. Maybe it feels just inauthentic in some way. Maybe you don't have a prayer journal with lots and lots of promises that God has fulfilled to you. And that's okay. What that means is that now is a great time to start building that foundational trust. So God doesn't want you to just blindly jump off. I mean, he does. We need to at a certain point, but he understands that trust is built from a relationship. The foundation of all good discernment is built on trust. I have learned to trust my husband in 5 years of marriage, and our trust grows deeper as each year passes. Same thing with our relationship with God. He wants that down payment of trust, but you need to know who it is that you're trusting, and you need to know what he has promised you. He has promised you himself. One of my podcast guests, Joshua Mazrin, encouraged me to read the Bible as a book of promises. That was so life-changing for me because I had always just thought of the Bible as a bunch of good things to know. But really what it is it's a story of a covenant. God giving himself to his people. It's his love letter to us. And he makes so many promises in the Bible. And they're waiting there for you to discover them. So I just encourage you to go ahead and read the Bible every day, take it very personally, and here's how I go ahead and do it. I don't just read start to finish. I find that to be very dry and difficult to get through. What I do is I read a chapter from the Old Testament, one of the Psalms, and then a chapter from the New Testament every day. And that way there's usually something in there that really speaks to my current situation. Don't forget that the Bible is the living and the active Word of God. And so God really wants to speak to you personally. He wants to make those promises to you and then allow you to see how he's fulfilling them. Write in your journal what God is speaking to you. Write down the verses that he's telling you for that day. And then give him about 15 minutes of just quiet time, free from all distractions, free from all technology, and just allow him to begin to speak to your heart and ask him, what do you want from me today? How can I trust you today? I encourage you to ask for the little things that you need. Build that foundation based on the small things. Maybe right now you can't trust him fully with your future, but just say, God, I need to know that I am loved today. You spoke in your letter of heartache, of feeling a desire to be loved. Just ask God today, show me your love, please. I asked him that, I've asked him that many times, and one of the days when I prayed that intention and asked him to show me his love, a package arrived in the mail with this necklace, actually, from a dear friend of mine, Allison, who has an Etsy shop, and it's a beautiful necklace with the Sacred Heart on it. She just sent it to me out of the blue for no reason at all. It was totally a beautifully creative way for God to answer my prayer. Here's a couple of my favorite promises that God has made to us. The first one is Matthew 28:20. I will be with you always, even until the end of time. Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. John 16:33. In this world you will have trouble, but take courage, for I have overcome the world. By the way, if you're hearing some noises in the background, my little co-pilot, Honora, she's sleeping over here, so you probably are hearing some little fidgets and stuff, but she's happy.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mommy. I wanted to thank today's sponsor, Choose Life Rosaries. A lot of people think I'm royalty, but I'm really just an ordinary girl who loves ordinary things. Sleeping, napping, carriage rides with my servants. Clearly, I'm a woman of refined taste, and I recommend checking out the silicone teething rosaries from Choose Life. They're so pretty. I hope my mommy and daddy go shopping for their Christmas in July sales, which are happening all month long. Please, Daddy, please, can I have some Choose Life rosaries, please? Thank you. Use code CAFFEINATED10 to get 10% off your order. They have teethers, stickers, rosary bracelets for adults, you name. Can somebody help me with that? Thank you. Alright, well, don't take my word for it. Go to chooselife.com, and back to you now, Mommy.
Okay, on to the second question that I have for you today to take into your journaling and your reflection. The question is, what is my image of God? What is my image of God? Since all discernment is based in relationship, it's really worth going and journaling and looking at how you see God. Is God the image of an overly strict parent? Is he the image of that friend who betrayed you in 3rd grade, or that teacher in school who had a grudge against you, who you never liked being taught by? Who is God to you? How do you actually see God? And does that image line up with reality? Is God to you a parent who loves you more than anyone else in the world, to whom you could bring anything and everything? Is God the all-loving, all-knowing creator of the universe who is waiting to provide for you when you ask for him, who knows what you need better than you know yourself? So many of the doubts and the confusion and the lack of trust can just get cleared up when we align our image of God with reality, with who God really is. I have a great quote by St. Basil. We ought then to ponder well on this thought, that we are the work of a good workman, and that he dispenses and distributes to us all things great and small with the wisest providence, so that there is nothing bad, nothing that could be even conceived better. God deserves our trust, but if we don't see him that way, then it's really hard to trust him, right? Like my children, I lead them around, I take them by the hand and I lead them around. They don't always know where we're going, but they go with me because they know me, because they trust me. They know that I have provided for them in the past. They know that I am looking to provide for them now. The devil really, really wants you to hide from God. He really, really doesn't want you to know how good God truly is. And so he's going to do whatever he can to keep you in the darkness and to make you want to hide from God, just like Adam and Eve did in the Garden of Eden. I know this struggle so well myself. And so I just want to share a little bit of my testimony of understanding how good God is and learning how to see him in reality. I've shared this before on the podcast, but it's been quite a long time, probably 2 years ago. I was discerning religious life. I was on the television show, The Sisterhood, Becoming Nuns, and one really beautiful thing about that experience is that before the cameras showed up every morning, we had holy hour and mass every day. And that was off camera. We didn't have our cell phones, so there were no distractions. It was just us and Jesus in the Eucharist. And when I filmed that show, I brought with me this beautiful picture of the Sacred Heart, Jesus holding his heart out to you. And it's my favorite picture of Jesus because of the look in his eyes. He's looking at you with love, compassion, tenderness, and desire. I was trying so hard to pray my prayer of surrender, to give God my down payment of trust, but I didn't fully understand what that was actually going to look like and how God could actually fill and console my heart. So I'm praying one morning after Mass, after receiving communion, and I see this image, this beautiful image of Jesus, and I am struck by the realization that this is real. This is not just pretend. This isn't made up. This isn't something that's fabricated just to make me feel good. This is actually the love from whom I came. This is the man who died for me, the man who is God, who died for me, who gave his life for me, and that's how much he loves me. And he's standing there holding his heart out to me in his hand. And I was completely overwhelmed, but I accepted his gift. I took it in my hand, and I'm looking at his heart, and I said, well, thank you. What should I do with it? And he said, take my heart, take your heart out, and put my heart where yours used to be. And so in this prayer experience, I was able to take my own heart out of my chest, and I put his where mine used to be. And when I took my heart out, I was struck by the realization that it was so small and shriveled and gray and hard and stony and just not like a heart should look. And I was struck by this realization that what I was receiving was so much more than what I could ever give. And I'm there with my heart in my hand, and I say, well, what should I do with this? And Jesus said, may I have it, please? And I knew that even though what I had to offer in comparison was so much less than what I had been given, that it was really, truly what he wanted. He wanted nothing more than my trust and my presence and my love. He wanted me to return the gaze that he was giving to me. And so even though it was pretty embarrassing to have nothing more to offer than this shriveled little heart, I gave it to him. And he put my heart where his used to be. And ever since that exchange of hearts, it has totally changed the way that I see discernment. It's changed the way that I look at my life. It's changed the way that I see my spirituality. It's changed my desires. It's helped me to understand that whatever it is that God wants for me, it is going to be the best thing for me. That my deepest desire and his desire for me are not separate, but they are one and the same. So that's my story. That's my little testimony of how God has changed my heart and shown himself to me as the lover of my soul and a good father who's looking to provide for me. And I pray that he will do the same for you very swiftly as you pray this prayer of surrender, as you continue to make that down payment of trust. A surrender novena by Father Dolindo, which is a 9-day novena, which is incredibly beautiful, very poetic. You can buy it online. Trustful Surrender to Divine Providence. My daughter was in the NICU for 126 days. I connected with a fellow mother of a special needs child who actually ended up passing away when he was 4 years old. And I asked her how her faith survived that experience and grew stronger from it. And she basically gave me this book and said, just read this. She said, I read this and it changed my life. Oh, Nora, my baby. Oh, she's sleepy. Here's a quote by Blessed Claude de la Colombière, who's one of the authors. So what are we worried about? God is looking after us, and yet we are full of anxiety. We trust ourselves to a doctor because we suppose he knows his business. He orders an operation which involves cutting away part of our body, and we accept it. We are grateful to him, and we pay him a large fee because we judge he would not act as he does unless the remedy were necessary, and we must rely on his skill. Yet we are unwilling to treat God in the same way. It looks as if we do not trust his wisdom and are afraid he cannot do his job properly. We allow ourselves to be operated on by a man who may easily make a mistake which may cost us our life, and we protest when God sets to work on us. If we could see all that he sees, we would unhesitatingly wish all he wishes. We would beg him on bended knees for those afflictions we now ask him to spare us. To all of us he addresses the words spoken to the sons of Zebedee. You know not what you ask. O blind of heart, your ignorance saddens me. Let me manage your affairs and look after your interests. I know what you need better than you do yourselves. If I paid heed to what you think you need, you would have been hopelessly ruined long ago. And I just recommend that you consistently give God time to win over your heart, that you consistently give him silence and prayer. You don't have to do every kind of prayer. You don't have to do the rosary and mass and a holy hour and meditation and read scripture every single day, but make sure that you're doing something. And if your typical prayer is maybe the rosary or another rote prayer, that's great, but do make sure that you actually create space for God to speak to your heart, for him to really break through and really speak to you in the way that he is longing to. So please know of my prayers for you, Catherine, and I just pray that God is going to deepen and increase your trust every single day, and I can't wait to see what he does with your willing heart. So God bless you.